All right. Well, good morning, everyone.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Hire Moment Mastermind. I'm Shira Lotzar, joined by my colleague, Bryn Schellinger, here to answer your job search questions. And we are about to chat with Daniel, who's new to our group. So Daniel, how can we help you?
All right. Hi, everyone. So I'm Dan Cole. I live in Bethesda, and I am looking for a position in the nonprofit sector, where I have worked in the past. Most recently, I did work in the Biden administration in government relations, but I am looking to get out of government relations and get back into the nonprofit sector. I've done a lot of fundraising in the past, so that is principally, but not exclusively, where I am looking.
Gotcha. So you're in the 501c3 world, not the C6 world. Is that right?
The C3 world.
Okay. And specifically,
I've worked in the C4 world as well.
Okay. So are you a fundraiser?
I have not spent my career in fundraising, but I have done a lot of fundraising. So,
Okay. What kind of role are you looking for?
Well, I'm looking in the, I have a lot of involvements in the organized Jewish world. I'm looking in the progressive policy sector, trying to cast a fairly wide net.
So let me I'll clarify my question a little bit. So one of the things that I talk about in a group like this, I haven't actually mentioned in a while, but there's a difference between what I call your lane and your community. Okay. So your lane is what you do. Your community is who you do it for. Right. So this is actually more of a lane question. It's the what you do thing. The who you do it for could vary, right? Sector, mission, right? What's the lane? What's the actual career?
But the lane is major donor stewardship, major gifts.
Okay. So it is fundraiser. Absolutely.
It is fundraising.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Just a matter of the where.
Yep. So and I'm looking again in nonprofit organizations. I've done a lot of political fundraising over the years, so I'm looking into that as well.
Okay. All right. Very good. So what kind of questions do you have about your search that we can address for you?
Oh boy, you're putting me on the spot here.
That's what we do here.
I
We're here to help.
Armed with
We can't help you
questions.
unless you tell us.
Yeah, you know what? I love everyone's guidance on accessing the hidden job network. That is a challenge. I'm on a variety of search vehicles, so I feel like I have a pretty good sense for jobs that are being publicly listed.
So the hidden, when you were on the JCA call, I guess that's how you met me, right? Or did JCA?
I did. I actually had been on a job fair where you presented as well, and then yep.
Okay, got it.
And then we connected by LinkedIn.
Okay. I'm not sure if I mentioned on that call that I actually have a video around this. It's called Accessing the Hidden Job Market. And Fern and I both love to talk about networking, because that's actually how you do it. It's all about accessing the hidden job market. Like literally that's how you do it. Because employers all day long are focused on, getting referrals, right, for their positions. Yes, they might post on a job board, but they get hundreds of applications. And so oftentimes they're going to other colleagues, HR people and executives and just people in the network. Who do you know? And you want to be the person where they say, oh, yes, go connect with Dan. Did you go by Daniel or Dan?
Dan.
And so I mentioned that because one of the main concepts here is what I'll call fish where the fish are. Okay. So you need to know where your fish are swimming. And you've got at least a couple different kinds of schools of fish. Number one would be the executives who would want to hire you, right? So your potential hiring managers, whether that's a chief development officer, whether that's an executive director, what have you. Where are those people hanging out? And number two, your colleagues, the people who do what you do. And those people are actually some of the best referral sources, because if they hear about an opportunity that's not right for them, it could be right for you, right? And that you want to be on their radar, because they want to be able to say, oh, recruiter, job's not right for me, but I know this guy, Dan. So are you member of the local chapter of AFP?
I'm not.
Okay. You familiar with Association of Fundraising Professionals? Sure.
Yes.
I figured that would be a great way to fish where the fish are. I mean, honestly, you always want to think of your colleagues as referral sources, right? As well as thought leadership partners, obviously, but they're never as competitors. They're not your competitors. They're your colleagues. All right. So that's one way to do it. There's lots of other networking techniques, but those are kind of a couple that are helpful. Vern, do you want to chime in here because this is your wheelhouse too?
Yep, I will chime in here. Well, Shira and I have known each other for a long time, and we've spent a lot of time career coaching. The last 10 or 15 years, I've kind of, in addition to career coaching, focused in the world of networking. And now I own a company called Contacts Count, which is all about networking. And so the principle on which Contacts Count is founded is that networking is not about talking and taking. Networking is about teaching and giving. So the way to build relationships is when you have an opportunity to teach people about you, who you are, what you want, and obviously in the job search, that's what you're doing. You're having lots of conversations with people telling you, just like this conversation, what's your background, what you're looking for, here's the ideal job. The more you can communicate and teach people about who you are, what your skills are, what you're looking for, the greater likelihood that someone will be able to refer you to the hidden job market. So that's got to be, it's called, a lot of people refer to it as an elevator pitch. I hate I hate the word. Just in an elevator, I have you trapped. I'm going to talk to you that way. And then obviously there's the mutually beneficial part of building relationships, which is teaching and giving. So while you want to teach as much as you can about the other person, you want to learn those same things about the other person. So if you can help them in some way, whether it's something as simple as sending them an article, introducing them to somebody in your network, or a bigger give, such as, hey, I got a referral for you for a job and I know the hiring manager and I can put in a good word for you. That's a big give, right? So just approach all of your interactions with, have your what you want to communicate about your job search down pat. And whenever you're talking to somebody and they say, nice to meet you, Dan, tell me a little bit about yourself, or what do you do? Those are kind of the typical questions. Be prepared to communicate with them. And that's, the more people you talk to, the greater likelihood. The logic is simple. The more, if you and I started to have multiple conversations, the more I would know about you, the greater likelihood I could help you in some way. Like I said, whether that's an article or a referral to a job.
And Dan, in the chat, I just put a link to the page on my website that has my free videos, one of which halfway down the page is called Accessing the Hidden Job Market. And absolutely everything Vern is saying is true. And when you are networking with people, you want to make sure that you are communicating in a way that person can understand. Right? You've got all kinds of people. Like, for example, as you could tell, like I play a little bit in the C3 world, right? To even say that kind of jargon. But let's say I didn't. Let's say I came from the consumer packaged good world, or I came from commercial real. I would have no clue about the nonprofit sector, right? So if you were networking with me and I came from that completely different industry, I wouldn't be able to, I wouldn't understand major gifts. I wouldn't understand anything of what you're saying. That there's too much jargon. But you could talk to me and I do understand because I happen to tangentially play with that world, right? Now you wouldn't know that until I just said it. But I think it's helpful when you're talking to somebody to actually start out by saying, so, look, I'm in the nonprofit sector. Hey, Susie, whoever you're talking to, is that a world you're familiar with? Well, actually, no, I come from financial service. Okay, great. So then you understand a little bit how to frame what you're looking for. And I will tell you, so let me make it personal. Okay. So I'll give you an example. So I have my own business. I'm a consultant and I do a lot of different things. I'm a recruiter and a coach and executive coach and blah, blah, blah. Well, I do happen to work extensively with the association community. Now, here's why I'm mentioning that. when I'm networking, which I do a lot, as you might imagine, right? I network with all kinds of people. Sometimes they're people from the association sector. Sometimes they're not. When I'm talking to my association peeps, I can get very specific on the kinds of ways that I can help association. I can get a little jargony and whatever, right? When I'm not, let's say I'm talking to another consultant and they're like, hey, Shira, how can I help you? How can I refer business? I am very, very generic about it. I say, look, first of all, do you understand the association? We're like, well, no. Like, well, let me explain, you know, one sense, membership organization. And then I say, look, if you need any executives who are looking to hire in the association world, just give me a call. I don't get into detail about who and how and what and level. And no, I'm just very generic about it. If they think of associations, they can think of me. And I might be able to help them, I might not, but I have colleagues who can. And that's a way to think about it is the less the person understands about the sector you come from, the more generic you need to be. And you can just say, look, I'm a nonprofit guy. So if you hear folks in the nonprofit sector, you can refer them. But more importantly, Dan, that's why you got to be focusing on the people who are from the sector, who do fundraising, who get what you do, where you can do jargon all day long and they'll get it and they'll get that you're a major gifts guy. Maybe you're not a campaign guy, you're a this, you're not a that, right? Because of course in fundraising, there's a lot of different elements to it, right? So I just want to encourage you to be very specific, like focus in on where your fish are.
That makes total sense.
And that focus that Shira just talked about, obviously those are the people that would be more likely to be aware of a job in the hidden job market, right? Because they're in that space. Their networks are in that space. So
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I appreciate it.
Yep.
Yep. That's why I'm on this morning.
Okay. All right.
For good suggestions like that.
Yeah. Yeah. And speaking of this group, you know, there are a lot of other groups. Are you familiar with CNM, Career Confidence?
Nope.
Plus, okay, so there are 3 other groups locally. They're all Zoomified now anyway, like everybody else is. So one of them is called Career Confidence, career-confidence.org. Another one is called CNM, it's the Career Network Ministry out of McLean Bible Church. And it's on Meetup. So if you go to Meetup and just type in, actually, you just Google CNM Meetup. So it's Charlie, Nancy, Mary. CNM Meetup, you'll find them. And then the other group is called 40 Plus, 40PLUS. I think their website is 40plusdc.org. Okay. So
I actually was on that website earlier this morning as I was trying to navigate my way here.
Yeah. So 40 Plus meets Monday evenings. CNM, their signature event is Tuesday evenings at 8, but they have meetings these days kind of throughout the week. Career Confidence, their signature meeting is Saturdays, but they also have meetings throughout the week. Once everybody went on Zoom, they started, having multiple meetings.
Terrific.
Okay, so hopefully that'll help you. And their groups just like this. Now our group is open Q&A. Their groups are actually speaker based. They have a speaker and then Q&A with a speaker. But so you can get topical deep dives there, and then you can get open Q&A here. All right. So we'll hear from Ty now, and if there's any other questions you have, feel free to hop back in.
All right, will do. Thank you.
Okay, Ty.
I just had a comment. I don't know if it's appropriate. Pat Romadelli, I haven't been on the group in a while, but I guess they meet Thursday nights. It's a national group. There's about 500 people on that call. I have not gone back to it, but it's a good group, good place to connect, especially if you're looking nationally around the country for positions. And I can put that in the chat.
Yeah, put her name in there so he can get the spelling. Yeah, it's a phone call, right? Or is it a Zoom call? Ty, you're on mute.
It's a Zoom call. It's a Zoom call. But a lot of people, they won't turn their cameras on. They'll just listen. And there is a presentation, then there's an opportunity to ask questions.
Yeah, my understanding is Pat's really excellent at what she does.
Yeah. A couple of her one of her YouTube videos almost goes back to the history of networking and how networking, is just it's such an important skill to have. So and speaking to that, now that I'm close to launching the new website, I'm going to put in the chat my email, and we do have an online networking competency assessment, which will take you about 20 minutes to complete. So if you'd like access to one for free, just email me at, and I'll send you the link to the assessment.
Karen, you're on mute.
Ty, you sent that last message to me. Sorry.
I'll send it to everybody. Thank you.
All right. Other questions? Steve, do you have anything you want to share today?
No, not particularly. I'm waiting to hear back this morning. Had an interview yesterday with hiring manager and the president of a company. It's an IT manager role. It's fairly well aligned with my experience. The company, they were transparent in the sense that they do have some challenges coming up. They have an older technology and kind of operational stack that definitely things that can be improved to expand the business. And a lot of our conversation in the interview was focused around business challenges, which I always think is a good thing, especially getting out of that tech mind space and being able to equate the customer service and kind of the other pieces to it. So, they talked a little bit about, they had a couple of candidates in there. They're hoping to be in second interviews like yet today and going into Monday. So I'm hoping to hear back from the recruiter. I know behind the scenes, they had an offer out to somebody a week and a half ago, and this person didn't accept. And I heard the backstory was more about they think the person was using that job and that offer is leverage to stay where they were for a higher salary, which we've seen happen, does come up. It would not surprise me if that's accurate. It would also not surprise me if really this person saw the depth of what they were transforming to or needs that they have and said, hey, look, I'm not sure the company really is going to make that kind of financial commitment to themselves or really be able to fund the position, and they walked away. Bottom line is, it doesn't affect me. Hoping to hear back today on next steps and hope to tie that up, going forward. So outside of that, it's been pretty good. No real issues outside of that, just more networking, obviously, and looking at opportunities that come up.
All right. And have you been thinking again about the consulting world?
Yeah, I need to touch base with you on that. It's of interest, and I certainly can understand I can certainly understand the potential engagement sides and appeal and what have you. I probably have a lot more questions I'd have to think through and then get with you on.
So I want to offer you a free resource.
Okay.
So I'm not sure if you're familiar with another community service project I have called BoomerWorks. Did I ever mention that?
No.
Okay, so I mention it once in a while in this group.
Okay.
So yeah, so it's called BoomerWorks, boomerworks.org. Let me just put it in the chat here. And we have free monthly educational programs on self-employment topics. We're specifically about helping 50-plussers to re-career into self-employment, although we're inclusive, right? But we focus on 50.
Sure.
Anyway, so we have a meeting coming up on March 16th, and we haven't posted it on the site yet, although it is, anyway, if you go to the boomerworks.org and go to the meetup tab, at the bottom of the page, you'll see that it's coming up. It'll be posted formally soon. Anyway, it's about fractional work.
Okay.
Familiar with the fractional concept?
Oh, yeah. One of the position areas that we talked about before was virtual CIO or things like that.
Exactly. So the woman who's going to be speaking, her name is Jen Hamilton. Funny enough, Vern introduced her to me. She's been a fractional exec, and she's going to teach people how to do it. So feel free to hop on. It's going to be March 16th at 5:15 Eastern.
Great.
Yeah. So you're welcome to join on,
Absolutely.
Works for you.
And just going back to networking, Sharon and I had this conversation at the beginning of the call. So Jen Hamilton and I have known each other for 4 or 5 years. And I knew that Jen Hamilton and Shira could help one another some way, somehow. So that's a give. It's a simple give. And now Jen's willing to do a presentation for Shira.
Yeah.
So the
Exactly.
more you know about a person, the greater likelihood you can give to back to them in some simple way, or in a more dramatic way. So
Always be giving, be a go giver, right? Always see how you can help people. Always try to make connections to people. You never know who can help whom. There's oftentimes there's a lot of fruit out of those relationships, but all you're doing is just putting two people together and then they go off and play, right? And then they can help other people, right? It's just a beautiful way to be of service to folks. So as you're networking, be thinking like as people are saying to you, here are my challenges, or as you're asking them, what are your challenges? You could be thinking in the back of your mind, I got somebody who can help that person. And then make sure to make the intro. By the way, don't just say you're going to do it. One of the little tricks that I use is as I'm on the call, I start teeing up the email so that I don't forget. In fact, sometimes I'll actually do the introduction right there on the call, and I'll actually read the introduction to the person and say, is this okay if I introduce you this way?
Yeah.
Right? And you want to say, hi, so-and-so, I want to introduce you to such and such, so-and-so, because of this, thought you guys would, right, have some synergies. Feel free to go off and connect, right? You can hyperlink the person's LinkedIn profile to the introduction. That can be really helpful so that the other person understands, right, what's going on and who they are. Highly recommend that you be thinking about that. Just keep giving. Keep giving.
At Contacts Count, we call listen for the give. In other words, when you've asked somebody question about what they do or how they do it, or tell me a little bit about yourself, and they're talking to you. I mean, listening is a real skill. And, a lot of times we're preparing our answer to what the other person's saying, and we're not really listening. And so you listen for the give. What is this person telling me, just as Shira just said? And is there somebody or something that I might give back to them that would help them in some way?
Exactly. So always be networking. All right. Any other thoughts, questions, ideas? Dan, did that spur anything for you? You're on mute. Dan, you're on mute.
I've been taking a lot of mental notes during the last 20 minutes.
Good.
This has all been helpful.
Yeah. And by the way, there is a book actually called The Go Giver. Highly recommended. Little red book. It's very transformative. It's been very popular for many, many years. The Go-Giver. And it talks about how to create value in people's lives and, give for the sake of giving.
It's actually worth a read. It's a very good book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then there are actually other books that came out of that book. In fact, if you go to thegogiver.com or gogiver.com, yeah, you can find the other books that they have. And it's kind of a movement, actually. All right. Other thoughts, other ideas, other questions, best practices, tips, things that have worked for you that you may want to share with others?
I can't say that anything consistently works. I wish it did.
All right. Anything that has worked, just,
A lot of times I have gotten jobs through networking. I will say that's probably the best way I do it. I can apply and get really nowhere. I can talk to people and get somewhere.
Absolutely.
And normally when I'm applying for a job, especially if it's something I really want, I try to find somebody in the company that I know was open to the idea of helping me network. In fact, I had a friend this week at Khaki that I, connected Ty to, because he was interested in a job, and she's been more than willing to help me out. And now she's more than willing to help Ty out. People want to help you. They just don't know what to do.
Exactly. That's right. You got to teach them how. That's what Vern talks about, teaching, right?
Yeah.
You got to teach people. And I'll tell you this, the more specific you can be, the better. A lot of job seekers make the mistake of having their job search be too broad. Why? Because I want to keep my options open. I don't want to be narrow, right? I hear this a lot, like, oh, I want to have options. People like to hire specialists, not generalists. So the more specific you can be, the better people can say, oh, I got it. You're a this. You want to go for that. Great. And then they can kind of label you and be able to focus the referral.
So I just continue to network anyway.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah, that's the way it should be done. Ty?
I'm mute,
You're on
Tom.
mute.
Sorry, you identify a job with a particular organization. Could you go into LinkedIn and people that even aren't in that area just say, hey, I'm interested in coming on board. Can you talk to me about your organization? Is that people you don't even know? Can you do that? Or is that a
the
shot in the dark?
Well, it is a bit of a shot in the dark, but there's a way that you can warm it up, right? So remember that LinkedIn is just a database. Relationship rules still apply. Okay. It's just to help you figure out who's who. Your best bet is to go after people who are second level connections to you. Because your second levels, of course, there's a first level mutual connection. With your first level, you can then leverage that depending on how well you know that first level. So Susie is your second level who you want to meet, and Fred is your first level. Okay. If you know Fred really well, you can actually go to Fred first and say, hey, Fred, I noticed you know Susie at Acme Company. Would you consider brokering an introduction between us? Right. Now, if you don't know Fred really well, I would just go to Susie and say, hey, Susie, you and I are mutually connected through Fred. Not Fred didn't refer me. You didn't say it that way. You'd say, you are mutually connected through Fred. So you name drop, but appropriately, because you are mutually connected. And then you can say, you know, Susie, you and I are mutually connected through Fred. I've recently applied for job X, you know, at your organization. Would you be open to a short chat? To share with me any insights you have about the organization. Now she may not say yes. In fact, a lot probably she'll say no because she's busy and she doesn't know you, but you never know. Maybe she's a really generous person and she's got a little extra time and she's happy to talk to you. You never know. But I would recommend that you put yourself out there and network with as many of those people as you can, because one of them might be willing to help you. And even if they're not open to a call, maybe they'll be open to getting your resume flagged, right, for extra consideration. And that's all. And that's what you can say. Say, would you consider, passing my resume along to the hiring manager, right, for extra consideration. And a lot of times they'll say yes. You never know. But I would reach out to them, and don't just go with one person. Do multiple people, because you never know. And especially if the hiring manager hears from multiple people, they're more likely to actually say, okay, fine, I'll meet with Ty, right? 5 people have recommended this guy. Let me meet with him.
I actually have a question.
Mm-hmm.
You reminded me of something. So I applied for a position about a week ago online, and in the application it said no social media inquiries.
Interesting.
But I want to make sure that I'm noticed.
I don't actually know. I don't quite know what they're.
I don't know what that means.
I don't know what that means. I don't know whether that means don't.
I took it to mean that I shouldn't send a LinkedIn intro to the
right, but
to the hiring manager.
But if somebody's in your right, but I don't know. I mean, I would think that if somebody's in your network, you can still leverage your network. That's not a social media inquiry. That's just using LinkedIn as your database to remind yourself of who you know. But I don't know. I don't want to officially opine on that because I wouldn't want to be inappropriate. I don't know. I haven't heard of that. I haven't heard anybody say that.
What would a social media inquiry look like? What is it? I'm not even sure.
I don't know. Maybe the recruiter, HR person, hiring manager doesn't want somebody actually messaging them on LinkedIn about it. Might be.
Yeah, that might be.
Yeah.
I would take a different route and maybe try to get referred in there by somebody who works there.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's right.
Yeah, I guess if I put myself in the shoes, if I go back into my HR career when I was a recruiter, we post a job, and all of a sudden I'm getting LinkedIn emails from people asking me about the job, and somebody finds my personal email address, and I'm getting an email from them about the job. I guess maybe that's what it means. So.
Yeah, so that's a little bit of a different one. Networking is still networking. You know, and in fact, a lot of employers want the networking. In fact, they'll pay employee referral bonuses to people who employees who refer candidates that they hire.
Yeah.
You know, employers love that.
I volunteer to work on the Women in Technology job fair because I get to talk to employers one-on-one. And if there's something I want later, I have a card.
Karen, you've been in the IT world, right?
I am in the IT world.
Are you open to being a mentor at WIT? Because you know they have a mentor protege program. Are you familiar with that?
I am not a member at WIT.
You're not. Okay.
I am just a volunteer.
Right. So I don't know whether you have to be a member to do this, but they have a program called, it's the mentor program, mentor protege program. So they've got early mid-career professionals who are the proteges. And then they have seasoned people like yourself who are the mentors. And they literally, I know this, they just started a class. I know because I just spoke to the group the other night. And if you're interested, you can be a mentor, which means you get to meet not just the proteges, you get to meet the other mentors who are also in that
I will
world.
look at it.
Yeah, might be something that's interesting for you. Hi.
I'll just throw this out there. Is there any unconventional ways? I know networking is the way to go. Is there anything that you've seen that has worked that people don't try very often? I guess at this point, I will try, want to try something different
You can
too.
go straight in through the front door and take the unsolicited approach, meaning there's an organization you want to work for. You go find the name of the person who would be your potential boss, and you just email them directly, right? Without even having a job opening, because you never know. Maybe somebody's underperforming. Maybe they have an opening in the back of their mind. Maybe they need extra headcount and they just haven't posted the job. You never know. That would be a road less traveled for sure.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, other questions, other ideas? We can wrap up a little early if you like. Dan, you have something to share?
I don't have any additional questions.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Ty?
I guess this is kind of I don't know, maybe dumb question, but if you're walking in the front door and, for example, if I apply for a position, other than being well dressed and have a resume and have your information, is there anything that I should be aware of? Because I've not done this, like walk in the front door.
Well, remember too, if you do a walk in the front door at a retail shop, don't be dressed in a suit. There's well dressed and then there's overdressed. For that kind of thing, don't be overdressed. Be nicely dressed, right? Just FYI. Yeah, just be your warm, wonderful self, right? I mean, that's kind of the best way to be. And walk right up to whoever's behind the front desk and say, hey, I understand that you guys are, have potential openings. Would love to talk to your manager. Just wanted to come in and say hello. I mean, it's very simple, very easy.
Now, it also could be, you might do that 10 times and, then we say, well, thanks for coming in, but, we're all busy. We don't have time to talk to you now. I mean, you're probably going to get rejected at some places when you do that. But again, you never know.
This was interesting because the job was on LinkedIn, but they wanted you to come in to fill out an application. They didn't want you to apply on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Huh. All right.
Well, how big of an organization is this?
Well, I only saw like half a dozen people. It's a local printer, but they've been in business 40 years.
Yeah.
I only saw 6 people on the website pictures. So I don't know how many employees. I'd have to research that more.
Well, so it may be a small company, and part of the way they operate is we want to, if somebody is interested in hiring, and have them walk in the front door, and we'll begin our assessment as soon as you walk in the front door to fill out the application, right?
The other thing I thought about
I'm
is
guessing. I don't know, but that's a possibility.
They want somebody that can actually show up and be on site, as opposed to somebody that wants to sit at home and do their job.
Right.
Yeah.
That's probably why they're making people come in, just to see, are you willing to come in, right?
Yeah.
All right, guys. Well, if there's nothing else, we can wrap up a little bit early today. And so for those of you who want to stay on the prayer call, you're certainly welcome to do that. Dan, I do that. I offer a prayer call right after this for those who are interested. And otherwise, we'll look forward to seeing people next week. All right. Have a blessed day. Everyone.
Thank you, everybody.